In today's video, I'm gonna show you how to make some fake glass that's safe for your actors to crawl through. Let's head to the bench. Now, before we get working on this project, I want to talk about a couple different types of movie glass. First of all, there's sugar glass or candy glass, which is made out of, you guessed it, actual sugar. Now, this is easy to make at home with a few simple ingredients, and it's also edible. So if you have a scene where a character is chewing on glass, or if you want to actually bite off like a wine glass, this is the glass to use. You can also make this out of something called isomalt, which is another food product. This stuff's a little bit more expensive, but the benefit of it is that you don't tend to have that browning or yellowing color happen if you overcook the sugar. The third type is often called breakaway glass. It's made out of thermoplastic resin. There's a couple different types of materials they use for this, but it's nice and hard. It doesn't react to the environment, so if it's hot out or if there's moisture in the air, it doesn't start to dissolve like sugar glass, but it breaks just like real glass. And finally, we have rubber silicone glass. This is what I used in the opening of the video here. These are just little shards of rubber pieces. These are great if you have to handle glass or crawl through it because they're rubbery and soft and super safe. And this is what we're gonna be attempting to make today. So let's see if we can pull off a DIY version of this on the cheap. Now, the main problem with the breakaway glass, they really break into a bunch of other smaller little pieces. Ooh, and it is still a little sharp.
Don't open your eyes. Breakaway glass, but it can still cut you.
This is like a bigger piece. You can see this is a chunk. I just have a box of broken glass here. So these are great if you're using a shot that needs, someone to punch through glass safely without getting cut, or say you're throwing someone through a window. But if you want to have them crawl through the debris from that window, you're gonna need something a little safer, which is where the rubber silicone glass comes into play. Now this is a bag of just normal clear rubber glass. You can see some chunks here. These are all kind of stuck together. And the way these actually work is they come in a sheet. I think I have a sheet in here. They're kind of all stuck together. So you can see these sheets are a little old and dusty. They've been sitting in this box for a long time with oh my God. Oh, I didn't realize this was, I've been looking for this forever. At the end of the video, if you want to know what this is, I'll talk about it. It's not related, but it's very exciting. It involves another short film of mine, but we'll talk about that. Ooh, whoa, there's another. There's a lot of stuff in this box. I didn't realize these weren't here either. Okay, we'll talk about this stuff at the end, but you'll see, here's a bigger piece. They come in like rubber pieces like this, and then you just break or rip them up and they turn into little shards. So you buy a sheet of rubber glass and break it up into whatever size you need for your scene. And they come in different types too, which is cool. Like this here, which is I think what we used in my short film Prey, which I'm gonna show you how we did that effect without having to use any actual breakaway glass, but we got the effect of breaking through a car window so that one of the characters could grab another character, and it worked great. And all we used was this rubber glass. We didn't even have a sheet of it. We just had these rubber pieces. But as you can see here, this is sort of a tinted version. So if you're using tinted glass like in a car, often when it breaks, has that greenish hue to it. So this is perfect for that. If you're doing a window, you have the clear stuff. So you can see the two different colors there side by side. We're going to attempt to make our own fake glass, but the problem is when you buy this water clear silicone mixture, it's very expensive, especially getting that super crystal clear version of it. That gets pricey. So I'm gonna see if we can do this on the cheap, do a DIY version, and what I'm gonna use is some caulk. Now, normally there's this regular silicone caulk that says it's clear, but what I find is that it doesn't actually come out very clear. It's kind of foggy, has sort of a cloudy look when it actually cures, but I found this stuff. So this is DAP Ultra Clear. I got this from Home Depot. If you're going to Lowe's, there's a different brand called Lexel. That's what they sell there. They're about the same price. They look about the same clarity. They're actually not silicones. I'll put the name of whatever this actual material is at the bottom here. So we're gonna see how this works. I don't know if this actually is gonna work. I haven't tried it before. This is just a theory of mine, but that's what we do here in the garage. We experiment, we take risks, we try new things. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but if it does, this is gonna be way cheaper than buying sheets of this. So let's try it out. All right, I have a few things laid out here. First, I have just a solid clear piece of acrylic. This is what we're gonna use to spread it out onto. I'm not exactly sure if the acrylic is gonna react with the solvents that are inside of this stuff. So I've also made a duplicate that has parchment paper on it, just normal run-of-the-mill parchment paper. Don't use wax paper, or if you do, make sure you use the non-waxed side. Otherwise, you might get some waxy residue onto your silicone. We're gonna try both. I wanna see if it actually reacts with the acrylic. So this is kind of experimental. I don't really know what's gonna happen. Now you could build little walls and make a mold that's nice and square, but it doesn't really matter because we're gonna be cutting up these sheets anyways. So I'm just going for it. I'm just gonna splatter this stuff all over, let it cure, and hope for the best. Now, to apply this, we're gonna just use a normal caulk gun, and to cut off the top, rather than using scissors or a razor blade, I don't know if you know this, but caulk guns have a little notch right here with a cutter that's gonna slice this thing open. You just place the nozzle inside. All right, now I'm actually gonna use a really big opening on here, so I cut it pretty far down. I wanna just get as much of this out onto our work plate as possible. Now, as with all caulk tubes, there is another seal inside we have to pierce, but luckily, our caulk gun comes with a little, I don't know what you call this, a little prod, a little cattle prod thing on there. And we can use that to pierce the inside seal of our caulk. Ooh, comes out a little gooey, a little ooey gooey. Now I'm just gonna do a couple thin beads here. Wow, that is so clear. Now, I only wanna do a little bit on here because I don't know how this is gonna react. And we're gonna put some on our parchment paper. I'm gonna go a little more hog wild on the parchment paper just because this one I feel like is gonna work a little better because of the fact that it's parchment paper. Now we are getting some lines with the beads. There's about a 10-minute working time or so with this before the outside skin starts to cure. Stuff is crystal clear. I mean, it's like crystal clear Pepsi right now. Look at that. You guys remember that stuff? Nope, probably not. And the best way to smooth this out is actually you want to wet your fingers, or if you have a plastic putty knife, you could wet that as well. I'm just gonna go ahead and get up on in there with my fingers. Ooh, I don't know. It's looking a little cloudy now that I'm pushing on it, but I do want to smooth this out. Probably should have a putty knife for this. Just gonna spread this out with my finger. Oh, that's looking good. Okay. Now we're cooking with gas over here. Oh yeah, bro. Look at that. Still dripping a little bit, but that's pretty clear. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, this could be really cool for making icicles. I don't know, let's make a rubber icicle. Why not? Let's see how that would work. So yeah, there's really a bunch of different things you can use this stuff for. My brain's already kind of working of like, what other, got icicles here. We've got pieces of glass. Pretty cool so far. It's hard to tell with the parchment paper one, but that one's looking pretty awesome. Almost looks like old school glass that's like poured and not tempered, where it has that wavy look, you know, you can see in vintage buildings. It's giving those kind of vibes right now. I wonder if I should, just for funsies, use some of the clear stuff so you can see what the difference of clear and ultra clear is. Maybe I'll do a line or two of that and we'll compare after this. We'll be back once this is cured.
Several days of curing later.
Okay, it's been a few days and these things are a lot drier now. As you can see, I actually hung these over just some measuring cups that I had, because when I had them on the acrylic sheets, the top layer was drying, but the bottom, which was touching here, didn't have any airflow, so I was having to flip them over constantly just to make sure both sides were drying. But when they were able to be taken off, I decided to hang them on the side of this measuring cup. That way I'd get a little bit more airflow around the whole thing. Now, speaking of the acrylic, the wax paper is a must. These things came off super easy, not a problem there. The regular acrylic, however, was another story. This became a mess. Look at how dirty and messy these were. I had to scrape these off, and even then I couldn't get all of it off, and it really kind of just messed these up. They got really bunchy and kind of like started to fold on itself and stick to itself because it wasn't fully dried. But if I would have waited till it fully dried, I don't know if I would have been able to get it off at all. But they do dry very clear. Look at this. Just for a comparison, here is regular caulk that's, you know, marked as clear. Look how much more yellow and foggy that is than the actual ultra clear. So that's why I wanted to try this stuff out. One other thing worth mentioning is that this stuff stinks. Like, there is a solvent in this that as it's drying, the solvent sort of evaporates off. So I had our exhaust just running constantly nonstop, and it was pulling all that out, which was great. It's starting to smell a little bit because I have it turned off while I film, but definitely wear a respirator or put this in a place that you can get a lot of ventilation because it stinks. It kind of smells, it's reminding me of sort of an auto parts store or something. Probably not stuff you want to be breathing. It worked, it dried really clear. Now it's still a little tacky, which as you can see, if I stick it to itself, kind of stuck there a little bit. But that could be because it's not fully cured. I did read online that this could take up to 7 days to fully cure. So maybe in a week, this won't be as sticky. That is a case maybe for using the expensive, fancy, smooth on rubber glass stuff, because I think it cures fairly fast. If you're interested in me using that and showing you how that works, comment below. Same goes for the candy glass, the sugar glass, any of those. If you're interested in me doing a video about that, let me know and I'll put something together. But for now, we're gonna try this DIY version. Let's get these cut up and see how they work as rubber glass. Hopefully it's easy to cut. Oh yeah, that cuts very easily. Not quite as easily as the rubber glass, because look at, if you take rubber glass, you can kind of just bend it and it breaks into these nice sharp shards. Look at that. It'll just tear into nice chunky shards. Now our version doesn't do that. It bends and molds and it actually stretches. So we're gonna have to use the scissors to cut these up. So let's just cut some chunks. Oh wow, once this gets into chunks instead of these big rubber sheets, it really starts to just look like glass. I'm actually kind of surprised with how well these chunks are turning out. I could have swore halfway through this project there's gonna be like, well, that didn't work. I guess we'll just have to try the smooth on version. If you're on a budget and only have a couple bucks to do a glass effect, this might be the way to go. Now, these ones look a little bit more like these pieces, so let's see if we can get a little bit more of that crystallized, sort of icy tempered look from these ones, because these already sort of resemble that more with all the lines and waviness that we had in there. So I'm gonna start cutting up a chunk of this. Yeah, I think that was a happy accident, because I was really bummed when I didn't smooth out these other pieces, because the caulk gun was coming out in lines and then it kind of dried, you can see here, with all those ridges on the big piece. But these are actually working really well. I'm surprised I'm saying this, but I'm actually gonna call it and say, this stuff works. You're in a pinch, you're doing a DIY sort of just indie movie with your friends, you need some broken glass that's accessible, you can run to the hardware store and pick up. This DAP Ultra Clear works pretty well. This is our glass, and this is the silicone, the fancy glass. I mean, those are pretty spot on, look at that. Okay, it's time for the final product. Now again, here is our pro version. This is the smaller pieces that are a little bit more tempered glass looking, and these are our larger chunks before you rip them up. They're a little bit more like the untempered glass. And finally, here's our DIY version. These are the tempered chunks of the DAP Ultra Clear. And we have a few more. These are a little bit intermediate, a little more rounded. They looked almost more like smooth glass, like a glass bottle or jar. And then finally we have some of our larger shards here. So again, this is a big chunk of our DIY glass compared to a shard of the rubber silicone glass. Look how cool this icicle came out too. This looks pretty realistic. Now, if I knew this was gonna work, I would do it differently, because it's very flat because it was on the acrylic. I would try to make it more three-dimensional, but just looking at it visually from the front, I mean, that's pretty cool. Now, making rubber glass is only one step of the process. To really bring the whole effect home, we're gonna do some more movie magic in post, so let's head on over to the edit bay. All right, now the fun stuff. But before we jump into that, I want to just show you a little setup of how we actually shot this scene. So here's a behind the scenes photo. We don't really have much behind the scenes photos or videos because this was such a quick shoot. It was a 10-hour day, I think maybe less than that. So not even a full shoot day. We were in an active parking garage, so everyone was just firing all cylinders. There's only like 6 or 7 people on the whole crew for this. So here's the setup. We have our actors sitting in the car, and in the background, you'll notice this window is rolled down. And just outside that is our producer, Mikey, who is currently standing in for our actor, who is the actual person to punch through the window, because he was Jimmy, our sound guy, who's also an actor. But when he wasn't actually on screen with his face, we had Mikey double for his hands, and Jimmy was running sound. So that's just indie filmmaking, folks. Then you'll also notice in the back here, my 2 other friends, this is Aaron and Rich. I'm not sure which one of them was doing this, probably Aaron, because he was kind of doing more of the art department stuff. But they would have a handful of the broken rubber glass, and timed with exactly when Mikey was punching through the window, they would just throw that glass right through all over Jessica and Jacob, and that would simulate the window breaking which wasn't actually on screen. So we framed it up. This is obviously not the shot because you're looking right out the window, but in the shot that's directly straight on, you don't even see the window. All the glass comes from the side, and it was really easy to fake. Now, one thing I will say, this was my producer Mikey's car, and I think to this day he's still finding bits of broken rubber glass in the car. So this can be messy. There's gonna be a lot of cleanup afterwards, so just be aware of that going into this. But now let's jump over to DaVinci and do some sound design, because that's what's really gonna bring this whole thing home and make it one cohesive scene, and actually one of the best jump scares in the movie. Okay, now to demonstrate this, I'm not mixing or doing anything live. This is all done by people much better than me. I have an editor and a sound designer for that. I'm just showing you the two different stages of what they did. So I have our video track up here, and then I have the two different sound mixes. One is just the raw audio without any mixing or sound effects, and then the other one is the finished final mix. So let's take a look first at how this scene was without any sound effects at all, just the raw footage as I described of throwing rubber glass through the window.
I just want to leave. Let's just go.
There you go. You can see that the rubber glass just flew across the screen. Let's go back and watch that one more time.
Let's just go.
Arm comes in, rubber glass with it. It looks like a break, but doesn't feel like a break or sound like a break. So now let's jump over to the other track. I'm gonna mute this one and unmute this. And let's watch that scene again with the sound design.
I just want to leave. Let's just go.
I love that, it works so good. Okay, let's watch that one more time just cause that's good, I like that.
I just want to leave. Let's just go.
And I mean, that's really what brings it all together is the sound design. There's so many stages of filmmaking that need to work together. It's not just one department individually. It's everybody, from the way that I designed the scene when I was writing it, from the way that my cinematographer came up to shoot it, to the art department and effects people coming up with the rubber glass, to the editing of it and the sound design. I mean, that's so many people working together to get that one jump scare to work. It's pretty incredible. Filmmaking is nothing short of a miracle. Now let's just jump around, and I want to show you a couple other scenes because there's some more breakaway glass. Here you go. So as they drive off, you'll notice we had some rubber glass on the ground. We didn't want to mess up the tires or anything, and it was all the only prop glass that we had, actually. So you'll see this pile right here of broken glass. Didn't make a sound. That's the raw audio. Watch that again. This is just the raw audio of this. Okay, takes off. Drove over broken glass, you don't hear anything. But now let's look at the final mix, where they threw in some sounds for that. Okay. Did you hear that little tinkle of glass as they drove through? It's subtle, but it just makes the world feel so much more real. Just the scene just comes together. And again, that was all rubber, super safe. Speaking of which, let's jump over here. This is the scene where the character wakes up in the pile of broken glass. And this first here is the raw video. All right, so you saw that. He was moving, interacting with the glass, no sounds. Just didn't have any impact when you do that. But with a little bit of sound design, so many sounds there. There's multiple glass sounds. There's the first of just him stirring and standing up, grabbing the knife and pulling through the glass, and then his foot comes crunching down. So let's listen to that one more time. So good. All right, that's all I have for this video. I know this wasn't showing how to do the sound design. That's a whole different field. I just wanted to show you the impact that putting some sounds and some rubber glass together can really help bring a little indie movie to the next level using some professional tricks of the trade. Pretty cool when it all comes together, right? Now, if you haven't already, please check out my short film, Prey. That way you can see all of this stuff in action and in the context of the actual film. Speaking of short films, I did promise you that I would show you what was inside this box that I found. First of all, there is this, which was from one of my very, very first college movies called Zombie Island. This is some rubber fake ears. These were, one of the characters wore these on a necklace and was collecting them from the zombies. And I just want to say, we did that way before Walking Dead did. So yeah, before Daryl Dixon, we had these ears. Whoop, these ears. And next, this is really cool. This is a prop that was from my short film, The Misinventions of Milo Weatherby. This is a fake frog that we used in the biology scene where they're dissecting frogs. Look at the detail on that. Now, I didn't make this. The really cool story about this, when I was doing the movie, I was searching around to see if anyone just happened to be selling realistic rubber frogs, and guess what? This guy had a bunch of them left over from the movie Magnolia when it's literally raining frogs and was selling them by the box. And luckily he happened to be in Encino, so I was able to drive over to his house and buy a couple of boxes in person. Now there were some that were just solid colors, varying shades of green and brown. These were like deep background frogs, but this is one of the hero frogs that was fully painted and looks really realistic, and it feels realistic. It's so heavy and slimy and ugh, I can't believe it's still in really good shape. But yeah, I didn't realize it was in this box with these ears. I thought I lost these props forever, but very exciting. Both of those films are on this channel. Check them out. They're under the short films tab. That's The Misinventions of Milo Weatherby, which we did years before Stranger Things came out. We were doing 80s style Amblin movies. Anyways, that's all I got for today. If you have more questions, drop them below. If you enjoyed this video and you learned something, go ahead and like it. Maybe even subscribe to the channel because we have a lot of really cool stuff coming. Until then, see you next time on The Geek Garage.